Hello everyone, this is Jasmine, aka Gladiatorinsweats, and I'm here just wanting to talk. I've had this on my mind for quite a bit. Excuse me. Not really on my mind, but it's been like in my awareness as I've been like talking with other people, as well as, just seeing the playing out in my own relationships and seeing the playing out in other people's relationships, and just it's just been on my mind, and I've wanted to talk about it for a minute, and I guess I've felt like nervous too for whatever reason, but I'm just gonna talk about it. So hopefully this will have an actual like follow through with the way that I talk about this, because I know that I can bounce from place to place. So I'll try and stay on topic. But what I really ultimately want to talk about was the imbalance of power in relationships, or really these relationship or these games that we ultimately play, and how I feel it's really a detriment, or just creates further separation and creates further illusion when it comes to love, when it comes to romance, when it comes to partnerships. And so in the context that I'm talking about this is because a lot of the people in my social group have been, talking about these different like relationship books, or like topics and advice, things like that, and the ways in which, we can maneuver in our relationships. And something that's been like coming up that I've been really thinking about, and has really been, it just has not resonated with me, and the more that I think about it, the more I really just realize it just doesn't resonate with me, and I start to realize why. And I'm starting to realize why, because ultimately what a lot of these like relationship advice books, or like these people, or specifically when it comes to like women, a lot of it can be based in like you taking up the perpetrator's part. It's like I feel like Steve Harvey probably wrote a book on it, like act like a woman, think like a man, some crap like that. And so a lot of these books carry that same kind of similar message of like, still being a woman, but having the mentality of a man to kind of play the man's game, kind of a thing. And it's just like, and I believe I said this to somebody, and I even posted it on Instagram, just in general, like a while ago. And it was, how do you deal with manipulator? Like, how do you deal with someone that's trying to play these like little manipulative games? How you win, quote unquote, is you don't play the game. And I see this this is how I feel when it comes to even relationships. Like, so for example, like when it comes to like a lot of the games, or the sorts of advice that can be given surrounding like how you should like interact with someone when you're first meeting them, and all this stuff. And so my whole idea with everything is to be yourself. And so even the whole concept of like playing a game, for me, is just kind of like weird. It seems really counterintuitive to the whole idea of being yourself, and you manifesting a relationship in which you can be yourself. So it feels really weird to be like, okay, I'm going to start off a relationship beginning with these sorts of mind games. So that for me is like already kind of like strange, or not. I don't even want to say strange. It just, like I said, it just seems counterintuitive to the purpose, which is to create not just a meaningful relationship, but a relationship, that is genuine and that's based in honesty. And so, not just with the mind games, or there's all kinds of games that people, or rules that people say there are when it comes to dating, like, not calling the quote unquote man back too soon, or being too eager, and things like that. And for one, I understand, like, here's my thing, is like, I understand the supposed like necessity for why these like rules or why this sort of like advice was created, but I guess my whole thinking is like elevating out of that whole concept of needing to play those games, at least for myself. So I guess I can really just speak from my own perspective of why, like, in the, I don't even call it the future, in the reality that I wish to live in, I don't want to have to play those games. Like, I don't want to have to be thinking about that kind of BS. And I mean, it's BS to me, because it's like, it's all based in this like power play. It's all based in like someone or people trying to maintain a certain air of like who's got the power, like who's so non-bothered, or who's it's all about creating illusions. It's all about creating the illusion of like being unattainable, and it's just a lot. And again, like, for me, it's just not the way that I feel that I'm headed. And so that's why for me it's been really, I don't want to say strange. Like, the word strange is what comes to mind, because for me it just seems really, again, the word that keeps coming to my mind is counterintuitive. Because not even just for the collective, but even in ourselves, if we are wanting relationships where we can be honest, where we can be vulnerable without fear of these sorts of games or these sorts of like things, then I feel you have to go into a relationship with that same kind of energy yourself. And I guess I feel this is especially I guess not pointed to, but especially for women, because again, I know that a lot of this like rhetoric is pointed towards women, especially as there's this, feminine empowerment movement. I don't want to necessarily just call it a movement, but it's the, divine feminine taking their power back. And I guess for me, my message is to not take your power back in the same means that those that took it back unjustly or unfairly did. And like, you can even just see this in any sort of context, in race relations, gender relations, whatever sort of power dynamic, where you can see like the underdog or the marginalized or the underprivileged are wanting to reclaim their power, not just wanting, but are taking back their power and struggle. Not, I don't want to say struggling, but there's this journey of figuring out how to go about it and what's quote unquote right and wrong for each one of us in our journey of reclaiming our power. And so my focus isn't even on what's right or wrong, because what's right and wrong for everyone is going to be different. I guess my thing that I'm just suggesting is that even at the very basic level of just putting yourself in another person's shoes and treating people how you want to be treated, you would want people to approach relationships with you with honesty and sincerity, and without, all of these like little mind games. And so I feel that's the same way that we would like to approach our, relationships or connections with people, to, create that environment, to create that sort of foundation of honesty and trust and truth. But again, this isn't even just about the mind games. Again, like I said, even the whole idea of, well, I'm not going to like bow to a man, I'm going to make the man bow to me, or like, ultimately, like I said, there's this switching of the table, the switching of the roles that's being desired. And again, like, it's not even to talk about this from like, oh, I've never experienced that. Like, I definitely understand the feeling. I definitely sympathize with the feelings. It's just that ultimately, in the long run, I don't feel it really creates the foundation for the kind of love, the kind of experience that I personally want. And I don't think that it really creates the experience for this higher love experience that many of us are desiring. And so, all that to say, I mean, it seems like basic relationship 101 to be like, balance and ultimately treating other person how you want to be treated. is like the basis of it. And I feel like we can get so like we get bogged down by all of these like man-made concepts surrounding things like marriage, surrounding like the idea of how relationships are supposed to be, especially when you know, get into discussing all this heteronormative, viewpoints when it comes to relationships, where men are supposed to do this and women are supposed to do that. And it's just so, like I said, it just seems so counterintuitive to this new expression of love, but not just expression of love. Again, I feel just these new levels of love that the collective has been opening up to, that we have individually being opening up to. And in quite a few of the channelings that I've shared with people from like I think there are channelings from like Kali Ma, from Lilith, and all talking about how people are already being born into the world, not saying their purpose is to introduce these concepts to us, but there's already people being born in what we would consider wrong bodies, and people that are more fluid in their gender and in their sexuality. And I feel that has already been the stepping stone or introduction for us to really embrace breaking out of these gender norms and these social norms. And again, if it serves you, then it serves you, and it's not for me to say, oh, you need to get rid of this sort of structure or this sort of mindset when it comes to your relationships. But I guess just ultimately for me, speaking for me, and seeing how that sort of mindset has it's not even about having worked out for me, but it does not create the sort of environment, I personally feel, that leads to this sort of open and loving, communication and a journey, personally. So, yeah, I guess that's just what I want to talk about, because it's just been coming up to my mind. And even every time I see things like couple goals and relationship goals, and it's just, we have so much attachment to like how we think. It's not even how we think others are supposed to treat us, but it's like, I don't know. I feel like we can be so very, even as we're coming, that's the way I would put it. It's like, even as we're like finding the balance in our energies, especially for us as women, I know that like, as we're like working out our energies of giving too much to other people and, doing things like that, I feel like we can go like back and forth between this like wave of being like so wanting to give unto others, and then we get into this self-love wave, and then we get super just like soaked up in ourselves, and then we fall back into this like further separation to where it's like now it's us versus them, and now it's us being on this pedestal and everyone else is beneath us, or it just gets to be really weird. And I guess I just wanted to put this out there that like the whole concept of people bowing to anyone, it's not even ultimately meant to be about you being below someone. It's just an act of showing reverence. And again, I even think that I just think this concept of not wanting to like bow to another man or whatever, these sorts of concepts really stem just from hurt, and stem from pain, and stem from a heart that's kind of closed off and a little bit hardened from past experiences. And that's just my perspective, so I just wanted to give it. So I'm just end this here. So thanks for listening to me ramble on. Feel free to check out any of the previous content as usual. This isn't really of my usual content, so I'm not really sure how I'm going to go about doing this further, because I really do kind of want to talk about more real life things outside of just like astrology and tarot, because I really do feel that not necessarily that my perspectives are unique, but just that I don't know. I just feel that when we are really able to put ourselves in the mindset that everyone's a mirror, everyone's a part of ourselves, and everyone is showing us parts of ourselves whether we like it or not. I feel like the further we're able to accept this and we're able to use it to our advantage to be able to see the messages that we need to see, I feel like the easier it gets for us to really acknowledge the quote unquote bad feelings. We're able to really use those feelings and really recognize what's being shown to us, what's being told to us. Cause I'm not gonna lie. Like every time this sort of topic comes up, it just like it's not that it gets under my skin. It's just that I get really like confused. I get really perplexed because I'm just really confused on like where do we, like, where's the cognitive dissonance where we acknowledge that we are, one with the universe, but then, or that we are the universe and that all is mental and that everything in front of us is mental, and then we disconnect by being like, well, but that person, their actions and all of that, like I didn't call any of this in, or like I had no part in playing how this turned out, or I don't actually need to look at my my understandings of my relationships, even though things may be working out similarly over and over again, or things like that. And I feel like that's even for me. Like, it can be easy for me to say that and then look at my own relationships and see how, I'm even having my own blind spots. So I think the point is just to acknowledge that we all have blind spots. So, yeah, I just want to talk about this. So, oh, and one more thing that just came to my mind was that, I feel like this is something that's already being talked about in the public or in the popular culture, where how these social norms and these gender roles are even just detrimental to men themselves, and how toxic masculinity is even just detrimental to men, or those that consider themselves men, those that consider themselves masculine, etc., etc. But yeah, like, even like I said, like, we can really hold on to these ideas that, like, oh, the man is supposed to do this and the woman's supposed to do that, and da 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 da, and it just doesn't make any sense. Because if everything's about balance, if everything is ultimately about, the harmony of everything, the give and take of everything, it just doesn't make sense in that way inherently, that there should be one person that does all the giving and one person does all the taking, which is ultimately kind of like how it sounds when people frame it that way. And I just am not sure if there's really any way to like sugarcoat it to make it not seem that way, but that's ultimately what it feels like. It's just like this expectation that women are just supposed to receive, and then men are supposed to like give and take care of the women. And it's like, I get that, and I totally even understand that perspective works for some people, but it doesn't work for a lot of people. And I think especially as women, we can totally not even think about how men are affected, and totally it's just really strange how we really think that like men are just as, not necessarily even just as sensitive, but that they're just as vulnerable, and that they're just as, affected and socialized by these things as well. And so, it's just been my message that I've just been starting to wake up to for myself, and is really what I've been trying to share, is just seeing everyone not necessarily just as yourself in that vague way, but really putting yourself in other people's shoes. This age-old, lesson that we've been told just as kids, of being able to treat others how you'd be treated. And that means regardless of, sex, gender, race, creed, religion, all of that. And I personally think it's just one of those things that a lot of us, because of the trauma that we've gone through and experiences that we've had, we validate our belief in that this is how things are supposed to be. But like I said, I just ultimately don't think that that sort of way leads to, I mean, it could lead to happiness. Like, what do I know? And who am I to say for you? But I don't know. That's just my perspective. It's just that everything's got to be about balance, and that men want to be cared for too. Like, it's just, I don't know. For me, the whole idea that like one person is cared for and the other person cares for the other person, it leaves a lot of space for it to fall apart, for it to not be sustainable, because everyone has to be able to fill their own cup to be able to care for other people anyway. And so I feel ultimately it's really, like I said, viewing everyone as yourself, viewing not even just that, but I think even as women, acknowledging that as women we hold quote unquote masculine energy too, and this whole idea that like men carry one energy and women carry another, like it's just so dualistic. And not just that, it's just so limiting. It's just so limiting and not fully accurate or even descriptive of the, the full experience. And so I just think if anything, we cheat ourselves by limiting ourselves in that way, and we create further struggle, I feel, and further like resistance when we really decide to live by these ways. But ultimately, I think that at some point we start to realize how these things not necessarily just don't work, but how they aren't really resonant with I don't even like to call it like these higher levels of love, because I don't even like the idea of like a hierarchy of things. But yeah, I hope that makes sense. So yeah, it's pretty, well, it's not even pretty late. It could be later. So it's Thursday morning technically. So hope everyone has a great Thursday and just has a wonderful week. And I just send everyone my love and wish everyone many blessings. So, I mean, we can definitely continue the conversation, but yeah, I'm just interested, I guess, to what other people believe, or what other people's perspective on, relationships, or as far as like dating goes, like how we move about in the dating sphere. And I say we, I'm not really dating, but even it doesn't even have to be just in dating, just how you connect with other people. I mean, I guess it's even a little confusing how we really treat dating any different than making connections with friends. Like, you wouldn't want, or I would think you would not want to connect with, a friend on that sort of manipulative level. And so it's really weird that we accept that dating is this environment in which we can play these sort of like, okay, who one-ups the other person, who can hold the like emotional power in a relationship, who can maintain the, oh, you stay with me and I'm the one who's got the juice and the other person's just lucky. Like, it's just, I don't know, it's just weird to me. It's just really weird to me, and I guess I just want to be honest about it. So yeah, I'll talk to you guys another time. So until next time.